Hey, you guys, let's have some coffee, candy corn, and story time. Um, One story I'm thinking of. Two real stories that were on the news, and one was my own story, Halloween story. But what happened with those kids that baked those sugar cookies with their grandmother's ashes? I did a video about it. Don't eat the sugar cookies, and they were trying to find out if it was true. And at the end of the article, I felt like it really was true. And they because they were minors, it was just going to be not publicized anymore, and the family was going to have to handle it. That's weird. So let me know if you heard any more about that. And about some crackling candle. And I have another good story from yesterday. This happened yesterday on the 101 freeway here in SoCal, Southern California. And a plane out of Van Nuys crashed on the 101 freeway, bigger than beans, just within an off-ramp or two of my sister's house in Calabasas. And that was crazy to see that on the news. Apparently it was like a vintage plane. The guy walked away with not a scratch. And viewers sent in their live videos from like their dash cams and their cell phones. Oh my goodness, it was like I was really there. And the plane kind of teetered and bounced from lane to lane. Ended up crashing in the center divider. And it sounded like the engine just died. I still don't know exactly what happened, but the reason why it's a spooky story to me is I'm so familiar with that part of the freeway. I know those off-ramps. It may have been closer to like Woodland Hills. I get confused between those off-ramps out that way, Calabasas, and then I think the next city is Woodland Hills. But very, very familiar We've been on that stretch of the freeway, I don't, in our life, how many times, I can't even count. And it's so easy to put yourself in that predicament. Like, that could have been me sitting there filming the whole fiasco. I could really work myself up into a tizzy for one of those people that can't go outside. In fact, we just saw a movie and I kind of laughed to myself. Remember that movie Copycat with that lady, Sigourney Weaver, and the serial killers? Oh my goodness. And then she ended up being agoraphobic. That's when you're afraid to leave your house, right? Yeah. But when you're home watching the news, you see and hear all this stuff going on in the world. It could just make you want to stay home. But anyway, so there's that. But I think that's why I always believe in guardian angels. Not a person was hurt. He didn't hit a single car. So I don't know what happens if people see him approaching in the air and people just stop and swerve out of the way. I don't know. But so that was a happy ending. Though it did clog up traffic for hours. This happened yesterday afternoon, traffic time. Okay, so we talked about the sugar cookies with Grandma's ashes. We talked about the plane crashing on the 101. Well, actually, it wasn't a crash. It was bounce, 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 bounce. Crash into the center. Right? And then, I'll tell you my story. And I probably share this every year. Valentine's Day. I probably share this every year at Halloween. I'll share it again, because it is kind of funny, even though it's terribly spooky. When it happened to me at age 16 in Santa Susana, California, my little hometown where I grew up. And it was the first year I didn't go out for trick-or-treat because I had a job at the little fast food Greasy Spoon. At the time it was called the Walk-In. It was an A-framed little independent fast food joint right at the foot of the Santa Susana Pass, that if you continue up the pass road, Santa Susana Pass Road, you'll go right by Spawn Ranch, where the Manson family did all their killings. Terrible. So, we had, at the time, a 63 white Falcon station wagon that when you floored it, it went like 35 or 40 miles an hour when you floored it. Anyways, that was my car. When I turned 16, that was my car, because my mom had a car, my dad had a car, and there was a spare car, and that was it. So Halloween comes, and my dad is so sad for me that I can't go for trick-or-treat, but I'm excited because I have a job, right? So I go to work, but in the meantime, my dad is trying to figure out how to scare me. So his idea is he's gonna scare me at my job. He's gonna walk up from the back door or the front where you serve your orders, and he was gonna scare me. He had on like a black trench overcoat and a hat pulled down over his face and these big earmuffs. She really couldn't see his face that good. So anyways, that was his plan. Unfortunately, the plan went south because the owners of the place, fast food place, happened to stop in. They wanted to give the workers some Halloween candy and kind of close up early in case anybody wanted to go trick-or-treating. So my dad got scared, and when he realized who it was and that they were coming out the back door, he didn't want them to see him, so he jumps into the back seat of my car on the floorboard. He's on the floor. So we're closing up shop. We're talking, and my dad is in the bottom of the floorboard. Doesn't make a move. We say our good nights. We have all these big plans that maybe we can go trick-or-treating. And mind you, it was just like a quarter of a mile from my house. You just go up one street, go down another street, and turn onto my street, and I was home. Get in the car, start heading home down the first street, and I hear like a windbreaker jacket, the sound like a silky windbreaker jacket would make. I heard it out of my right ear. And I turned to look. This is terrible. And there was a head popping up, like behind the passenger seat, front passenger seat, popping up, look at me. And when I saw that, I was just like a wet noodle. And then my dad sees that I see him, and I start yelling. I didn't yell, but I was, you know how a little girl would say, "Daddy, Daddy." I said, "Dad." Like I was 16, but I'm still scared, and I'm calling for my dad. So he thought I knew it was him, but I didn't know it was him. I just got panicked, and instead of yelling, "Help, help," I was like in a scared voice going, "Dad." So I don't know what was up with that. It's just a instinct, I guess. He thinks I know it's him, so he eggs me on, and he says, "Pull over, pull over." And I was so scared I couldn't do anything. Couldn't put my hand on the steering wheel or my brakes. And when my dad saw that I was really losing it, I was like a limp, like a wet noodle. That's all I can explain it. My head was like slumped over my shoulders. And he says, Angela, it's me, Dad. Yeah, put your foot on the brake." Bigger than beans, we went right. Instead of turning, I needed to turn right. The car went up the curb, up the front yard of the house on the corner. It had like a little incline. And again, guardian angels with everybody on trick-or-treat night. And nobody got hurt. I didn't hit anybody. That was like my miracle. Unbelievable. Until we get home, my dad's trying to push me over to drive us home. I'm a wet noodle, and my mom sees me crying when we get in the front door. She says, "What happened? What happened?" And then my dad kind of says, "I tried to scare our daughter." And he started laughing. I started laughing. And then it was funny. But let me tell you, when I was going through it, it was just terrible. But I'm glad today I could talk about it with fond memories of my dad and laugh and say, don't let that happen to you. And yes, every time I get